Yeah, so let me introduce myself. My name is Fabian Mihailowitsch. I'm a former software developer for a German energy combine. Currently, I'm working as IT security consultant for a German consulting company called Keyloggers. I'm doing penetration tests, source code audits, the general stuff. And if you want to contact me, you can find my contact details at the bottom of the slides. So what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about hardware keyloggers, basically PS2 and USB-based ones. In general, people think they are undetectable by software and cannot be detected. If you look, for example, at Wikipedia, you can find the nice quote, "Visual inspection is the primary means of detecting hardware keyloggers, since there are no known methods of detecting them through software." However, today I'm going to show you a few techniques how you actually can detect hardware-based keyloggers in software, and that's basically what the talk is about. Why did I do the whole stuff? Basically because there has been done less research on the topic. If you try to Google how to detect hardware keyloggers, you can find less information about that. And currently, there's no practical way known to detect them. However, they are a threat. There's that nice example in the year 2005. There was an incident at Sumitomo Bank where attackers tried to steal $423 million by paying the cleaning staff in order to install hardware keyloggers and thus retrieve the passwords and try to break into the bank. Maybe some of you guys already have had an incident with hardware keyloggers in your company. And so on one day, a customer came up to me and asked them how to detect hardware keyloggers in a large enterprise. And actually, you can't try to detect them by physical inspection, because if you have multiple thousands of clients, you can't go to every machine, take a look. So you need actually a software which you can roll out and try to detect them. Basically, what are hardware keyloggers? Let me start with a short explanation. Basically, hardware keyloggers are available for USB keyboards, PS2 keyboards, with a stuff like that, which you actually plug in between the PC and the keyboard. And they are also available as mini and PCI cards or as keyboard modules, which are built into the keyboard. And you can buy a ready-to-install keyboard, which you just plug in, and it has been modified to record the keystrokes. However, today we're going to talk about PS2-based ones and USB-based ones. And so what do these devices actually do? They try to record all the stuff you've typed into your physical keyboard, and the input can later on be retrieved by the attacker. The captured data can actually be retrieved via software for some products. The normal way to retrieve them is you have your keyboard, you type in a hidden password, and the keylogger acts as ghost keyboard and sends the recorded keystrokes back to the PC, and you can capture them in Notepad or whatsoever. Or after you have entered your password, the device shows up as flash drive. There are also some models which try to transfer data via networks like Wi-Fi, which the keylogger logs in to a Wi-Fi, and afterwards he can send emails, or you can do a TCP connect to the keylogger in order to retrieve the keystrokes, or you can retrieve them via Bluetooth. And that's basically what hardware keyloggers can do, what they are capable of. Today they have like up to 2 gigabytes of flash memory. They are password protected, the memory is encrypted, so if you retrieve the hardware, you won't be able to get the recorded stuff without the correct password. They have timestamping functions where they actually timestamp each key press. Based on the timestamps, you can create time use charts. You have like search functions to search the memory of the keylogger. For some models, you have firmware, which you actually can upgrade via software. And yeah, so you see those devices have a lot of features. They are, small devices with much technology, but aren't that expensive. For PS2, they start with $32, and for USB ones, you can start with $58, and yeah, that's it basically. So let's have a look at the companies. You have basically two big companies which produce keyloggers. You have Keydemon, which actually is known as Keylog, and it has 2 or 3 different names. And you have Keycarbon, and actually most of the models you can get, like Keycobra, Keylama, all the stuff that's out there in the wild, basically is a rebranded Keydemon. Then you have older products, which are also quite famous in the wild, like Keycatcher, Keyghost, Keyshark, and then you have some other exotic stuff, like from China. There are some models, but they are rarely seen in Europe and hard to actually get to buy. Then you have like 3 open source keyloggers, and then you have like a wireless keylogger from UK. And yeah, that's basically the keylogger market at the moment. The ones which are green are the ones I have taken a look at. The reason I didn't look at Keydemon yet is simply I didn't manage to get the hardware since the vendor wasn't able to send it to me since 2 months. However, I got it last week, so I think in the future there will be an update including also the Keydemon stuff. So before we actually start, I would like to start off with PS2 and explain to you how it works so we can try to detect hardware keyloggers. The reason I still included PS2 and will start with it is still in use. For example, in that notebook, it's a new ThinkPad, 2 months old. The keyboard in the computer, the built-in one, actually is connected via PS2. It's a PS2-based keyboard, so it is still in use. Okay, a keyboard basically consists of a wire matrix and a microcontroller, and once you press a key, the microcontroller sends the scan code, which is divided into a make code and a break code, to the PC. Once you hold down the key, a make code is sent repeatedly to the PC. Once you release it, a break code is sent. On the PC hand side, you have the keyboard controller, which is also referred to as KBC, and can be accessed on the PC hand side via port 60 in order to retrieve the press keystrokes, and port 64, which is a status port. So the communication between those two components. The obvious thing is the scan codes. The keyboard needs to send the scan codes to the PC, but there are some communications that aren't that obvious at first look. For example, the KBC can ping the keyboard. It can tell the keyboard to perform a self-test. It can set the repeat rate. It can do all kinds of stuff. And for example, interesting is to set LEDs. If you press, for example, Shift or numlock, not the keyboard does light up the LED. In fact, it just sends the scan code to the PC. The PC decides whether to turn on or off the LED and sends back the command to the keyboard. So that's basically how they communicate. In that example, you have, for example, like a ping. So the KBC sends the command EE, which stands for ping, to the keyboard, and the keyboard responds with EE. That's basically an example how a ping works. So another slice about PS2, I'm pretty sure all of you know the connector. Interesting are basically 2 parts of it, the data and the clock pin, which are used to transfer the data. The communication is bidirectional, and the keyboard actually defines the clock rate, which can be between 30 and 50 nanoseconds. The data that are transferred are the data frames, and the keyboard sends 11-bit data frames with a start bit, 8 data bits, which actually represent the data that is sent, like the scan code,